The gallery smelled of expensive wine and regret. Charlotte Blair stood before the abstract painting, her third glass of champagne warming in her hand. She wasn't here for the art. She was here because her therapist said she needed to rejoin the living, whatever that meant. Behind her, conversations hummed like static. San Francisco's elite pretending to understand brushstrokes and intention. She understood intention. Daniel had intended to marry her. Instead, she buried him in a suit he'd never worn. That was 3 years ago. Looks like a car crash. Charlotte turned. The man beside her wore a tailored charcoal suit, no tie. His jaw was sharp, his eyes darker. There was something hollow in his face, something familiar. "Excuse me." He gestured at the painting. "All that red. The twisted metal shapes? It's violent." She studied the canvas again. He wasn't wrong. "Maybe that's the point," she said. "Beauty in destruction." His laugh was bitter. "There's nothing beautiful about destruction. Trust me." Their eyes met. For a moment, the gallery fell away. Marcus Sullivan extended his hand. She knew the name. Everyone did. Sullivan Tech Solutions. Billionaire. The man who'd revolutionized AI before he turned 35. Charlotte Blair. His grip was firm, warm. When he let go, her hand felt cold. "What brings you here, Charlotte Blair?" She could lie. She was good at lying now. "Therapy homework," she said instead. His eyebrows lifted. "Honest. I like that. What about you?" Marcus glanced around the gallery, then back at her. "Escape from a life that looks perfect on paper, but feels like drowning?" The words struck her chest. She recognized that drowning lived in it. "I lost someone," she heard herself say. 3 years ago, my fiancé. Car accident." Marcus's expression shifted, softened. "I'm sorry. Everyone's sorry." Charlotte took a long sip of champagne. "But sorry doesn't bring him back." "No," Marcus agreed quietly. "It doesn't." They stood in silence, two strangers bound by their separate griefs. "Have dinner with me," Marcus said suddenly. Charlotte blinked. "What?" "Tomorrow night. Dinner. I want to know more about the woman who does therapy homework at art galleries." She should say no. Every rational part of her screamed no. But when she looked at him, really looked, she saw something that terrified her. Recognition, like staring into a mirror. "One dinner," she said. Marcus smiled. And for a second, he didn't look hollow anymore. "One dinner," he agreed. Charlotte walked away before she could change her mind. Before she could analyze why her heart was racing. At the gallery exit, she glanced back. Marcus was still watching her. His silhouette, framed by the violent red painting, she had no idea she'd just met the man who would destroy her or save her. The restaurant overlooked the Golden Gate Bridge. All glass and candlelight. Charlotte arrived 10 minutes late, a deliberate choice. Control the variables. Protect yourself. But when she saw Marcus waiting, his eyes fixed on the bridge like it held answers, her carefully constructed walls trembled. "I almost didn't come," she admitted, sliding into the seat across from him. "Why did you?" She met his gaze. "I don't know," Marcus smiled. "Also honest, you're consistent." The waiter brought wine. They ordered without looking at menus. Around them, the city glittered like scattered diamonds, beautiful and cold. "Tell me about him," Marcus said. "Your fiancé." Charlotte's fingers tightened on her glass. "Why?" "Because he's still here. Between us. In your eyes." She wanted to leave. She wanted to stay. "Daniel was safe," she said finally. "Predictable. He was a high school teacher. We were planning a small wedding. Nothing fancy. Just us and 50 people who actually mattered. What happened? Bachelor party. Drunk driver ran a red light." Her voice was steady, practiced. "He died 3 days before the wedding. I was wearing my dress when they called." Marcus reached across the table, covered her hand with his. The touch burned. "I don't know how to do this," Charlotte whispered. "How to feel something for someone new. It feels like betrayal." "Then why are you here?" She looked up at him. because you feel like drowning too. And maybe drowning together is better than drowning alone.
Yes.
Marcus's jaw clenched. He withdrew his hand, poured more wine. My parents died when I was 16, he said. Car crash. I built Sullivan Tech from nothing because I needed to prove I was more than an orphan, more than a sob story. But every success feels empty. Every achievement rings hollow. I have everything and nothing. That's why you came to the gallery. I've been to 40 galleries this year. You're the first person who's felt real. The air between them thickened, charged. Over the next month, they fell into each other like addicts. Coffee at dawn. Midnight walks along the Embarcadero. Charlotte showed Marcus her world of data and purpose. Marcus showed Charlotte his penthouse with its suffocating views. One night, wrapped in his sheets, Charlotte traced the scar on his shoulder. How? Skateboarding accident. I was 17, reckless. He caught her hand, pressed it to his chest. You make me feel reckless again. She kissed him, tasting wine and want. But in the quiet moments, doubt crept in. Marcus's phone never stopped ringing. Board meetings, investor calls, crisis management. He was building an empire while Charlotte was trying to rebuild herself. Do you ever stop working? She asked one evening, watching him type furiously on his laptop. Do you ever stop grieving? He countered. The words hit like a slap. That's not fair. Marcus looked up, his expression hard. Neither is asking me to choose between you and everything I've built. I never asked that. You don't have to. It's in your eyes every time my phone rings. Charlotte stood, grabbed her coat. Maybe this was a mistake. Charlotte, wait. But she was already gone, leaving Marcus alone with his empire and his emptiness. 3 days of silence. Then Marcus appeared at her apartment, rain-soaked and desperate. I can't do this without you, he said. I don't want to. Charlotte pulled him inside, pressed her forehead to his. Then don't make me compete with your world. Let me be part of it, Marcus breathed. Okay. They kissed like drowning people, gasping for air. Neither noticed the black sedan parked across the street. Neither saw the camera flash. 2 weeks later, Marcus's assistant handed him a manila envelope. Inside were photographs. Charlotte at a courthouse. Charlotte signing papers. Charlotte with a man who wasn't Daniel. The date stamp read 6 months ago. Marcus's blood turned to ice. Who is this? He demanded, his voice shaking. His assistant shifted uncomfortably. According to our investigator, that's Charlotte's husband. She got married 6 months ago. Quietly. No announcement. The world tilted. Marcus stared at the photos, his mind reeling. Charlotte's wedding secret wasn't about Daniel. It was about someone else entirely. Marcus didn't call. Didn't text. He waited until Charlotte arrived at his penthouse that evening. Her smile bright, carrying Thai takeout like nothing was wrong. I got your favorite. She set the bags on the counter, then stopped. Marcus, what's wrong? He stood by the window, the photographs clutched in his fist. Charlotte's face went pale. What are you talking about? Marcus threw the photos on the counter. They scattered across the granite, damning and undeniable. Charlotte stared at them, her breathing shallow. Marcus, I can explain. You're married. His voice was ice. You've been married this entire time. While you were sleeping in my bed, crying about your dead fiancé, you had a husband. It's not what you think. Then what is it, Charlotte? What possible explanation makes this okay? She pressed her palms against the counter, steadying herself. When she looked up, tears streaked her face. His name is James. James Chen. He's dying. Marcus froze. Leukemia. Stage 4. He needed health insurance. Experimental treatment that costs $500,000. His family disowned him when he came out as gay. He had no one. Charlotte's voice cracked. Daniel was his best friend. Before he died, Daniel made me promise to take care of James. So when the doctors said James had months to live without treatment, out! For the insurance, for Daniel's memory, the room spun. You married a dying man. I married my fiancé's best friend to save his life. Yes. Marcus ran his hands through his hair, his mind racing. Why didn't you tell me? Because it sounds insane. Because people don't understand. Because I knew you'd look at me exactly the way you're looking at me now. Like you're a liar? Charlotte flinched. Like I'm damaged, complicated, not worth the trouble. Marcus wanted to rage, wanted to throw her out, but beneath the betrayal was something else. Something that felt like understanding. Does he know about me? Yes. James knows everything. He's the one who told me to go to that gallery. He said, I deserved to live, not just survive. I need to meet him. Charlotte's eyes widened.
What?
If this is real, if you're telling the truth, I need to see it for myself. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and dying flowers. James Chen was skeletal, his skin gray, but his eyes were sharp. He studied Marcus with open curiosity.
Ow.
Marcus sat in the plastic chair beside the bed. So you're the husband. James laughed, a wet, rattling sound. In the most technical sense, Charlotte and I have never even kissed. Hell, I'm not even her type. He glanced at Charlotte, who stood by the door. She saved my life, gave me a chance when no one else would. Why you? Marcus asked. Why did Daniel ask her to protect you? James's expression softened. Because Daniel loved me. Not romantically. But he knew what it meant to be abandoned by family. He was adopted, bounced through foster homes. When my parents kicked me out, he took me in. He was my brother in every way that mattered. Marcus felt something shift in his chest. How long do you have? Doctors say 6 months. Maybe less. The treatment's working, but cancer doesn't negotiate. James met Marcus's eyes. I know what you're thinking. That Charlotte should have told you. And you're right. But she's terrified of losing people. Can you blame her? Marcus looked at Charlotte. She was crying silently, her arms wrapped around herself. No, he said quietly. I can't. That night, Marcus held Charlotte on his couch, neither speaking. I thought you'd leave, she finally whispered. I almost did. Why didn't you? Marcus tilted her face up. Because I've spent my whole life running from complicated, from messy, from real. And you're the most real thing I've ever had. She kissed him desperately, like he might disappear. But 3 days later, everything shattered. Marcus's company faced a hostile takeover. A rival firm, backed by anonymous investors, was buying up shares, threatening to oust him from his own company. The board called an emergency meeting, and when Marcus walked into that conference room, he saw him, the man from Charlotte's photographs. James's doctor, Mr. Sullivan, meet Dr. Richard Vance. He's representing the investors. Dr. Vance smiled coldly. We need to talk about your relationship with Charlotte Chen, or should I say Charlotte Blair. Identity fraud is a serious crime, especially when it involves insurance fraud. Marcus's blood turned to ice. What are you talking about? Charlotte married James under false pretenses, lead on insurance documents? That's a felony. And unless you step down from Sullivan Tech, I'll make sure she goes to prison. The room tilted. Marcus realized too late. This wasn't about business. It was about destroying him through the one person he'd let in. Marcus didn't go home. He went to Charlotte's apartment and told her everything. She listened in silence, her face draining of color. Richard Vance. She said the name like poison. He's James's oncologist, the one who approved the experimental treatment. Charlotte's hands trembled. Because I rejected him. 3 months ago, he asked me out. Said James was lucky to have me. I told him I wasn't interested. He got angry. Said I'd regret it. Marcus paced, his mind racing. This is extortion. We can fight this. No. Charlotte's voice was flat. We can't. Everything he said is true. I lied on those insurance forms. Used a fake employment history. If this goes public, I'll go to prison. And James will lose his coverage. He'll die. There has to be another way. Charlotte stood, walked to the window. The city lights blurred through her tears. You step down. Give him what he wants. Save your company and walk away clean and lose you. She turned, her expression breaking. You'll lose everything if you don't. Your company. Your reputation? Everything you've built. I don't care. Marcus, don't be stupid. I'm not. He crossed to her, gripped her shoulders. I spent my entire life building an empire because I thought it would fill the emptiness, but it never did. You did. You made me feel alive again. I'm not worth your company. You're worth more than any company. Charlotte pressed her forehead to his chest. He'll destroy me anyway. Even if you step down, he can still expose me. Marcus went still. An idea, dark and dangerous, crystallized in his mind. What if you disappeared? She pulled back. What? What if Charlotte Chen ceased to exist? What if you became someone else, somewhere else? That's insane. So is everything else we've done.
Marcus
cupped her face. I have resources, connections. I can get you new documents, a new identity. You disappear, James gets to keep his treatment anonymously, and Vance has nothing. What about you? I'll step down. Give Vance what he wants. Then I'll rebuild. Start over. Find you. You'd give up everything for me? I already have. Charlotte's tears fell freely. I can't ask you to do this. You're not asking. I'm choosing. They held each other in the darkness. Two broken people making impossible decisions. But Marcus didn't tell her the whole plan. He didn't tell her about the deal he'd made with his head of security, the investigation he'd launched into Vance, the evidence they were gathering because the truth was simpler. Then Charlotte knew Marcus wasn't sacrificing his company. He was sacrificing his conscience. The board meeting was scheduled for Monday. Marcus arrived early, his expression carved from stone. Vance sat at the head of the table, smug and satisfied. Mr. Sullivan, ready to sign? Not quite. Marcus placed a file on the table. Inside were photographs, bank statements, email records. Vance's face went white. What is this? Evidence that you've been embezzling from the hospital, using experimental treatment funds for personal investments, including your attempted hostile takeover of my company. The board members erupted. Vance stood, his hands shaking. You're lying. Federal investigators don't lie. Neither does the IRS. I handed them everything this morning. Vance lunged across the table. Security restrained him. As they dragged him out, he screamed, She's still a criminal. Charlotte's still guilty? Marcus leaned forward. Charlotte Chen doesn't exist. Never did. James Chen's insurance was approved under a clerical error, which the hospital is now correcting. No fraud, no crime. Just paperwork. It was a lie. But it was a lie backed by enough money and lawyers to make it true. When Marcus returned to Charlotte's apartment, it was empty. No note. No explanation. Just a single photograph on the counter. Charlotte and Daniel, smiling, younger, untouched by grief. On the back in her handwriting, Thank you for saving me. Now, save yourself. Marcus stared at the photo, his chest hollow. He'd won. Kept his company. Destroyed Vance. But he'd lost her. And for the first time in his life, winning felt like dying. 3 months passed. Marcus threw himself back into work, but nothing felt the same. He'd hired investigators to find Charlotte, but she'd disappeared completely, professionally, like a ghost. Then one rainy evening, his phone rang. Unknown number. Marcus. His heart stopped. Charlotte. I'm at the Golden Gate Bridge, the same spot where we had dinner. Can you come? I'll be there in 10 minutes. He broke every traffic law getting there. Charlotte stood at the railing, rain soaking her hair, her coat. She looked thinner, tired, beautiful. You found me, she said. You let me find you? She smiled sadly. James died 2 weeks ago. The treatment gave him 6 extra months. He got to see his sister one last time. Make peace. He said it was enough. I'm sorry. Don't be. You gave him that time. You saved him. Charlotte turned to Marcus, her eyes bright with tears. You saved us both. Why did you leave? Because I was scared. Because everyone I love dies or leaves. Because I didn't know how to be saved. Marcus stepped closer. And now? Now I'm tired of running. Tired of being scared. If you'll still have me, broken and complicated and real, I want to try. I want to live. Marcus pulled her into his arms, kissed her like the world was ending. I never stopped looking for you, he whispered. I never will. But as they held each other in the rain, Charlotte felt the weight in her pocket. The positive pregnancy test she'd taken that morning. One more secret. One more impossible complication. But not tonight. Tonight, she'd just hold him and hope that love was enough. 6 weeks later, Charlotte still hadn't told him. They'd moved in together. Marcus's penthouse felt less like a tomb with her laughter filling it. They'd fallen into domesticity, tentative but real. Morning coffee, shared silences. Learning to trust again. But the test remained hidden in her drawer, a ticking bomb. Tonight Marcus had something planned. He'd been secretive all week, his eyes bright with the kind of anticipation she hadn't seen before. Where are we going? Charlotte asked as they drove through the city. You'll see. They pulled up to the art gallery where they'd first met. Charlotte's breath caught. Inside, the gallery had been transformed. Candles everywhere. The same abstract painting hanging on the wall, violent red and twisted metal. Marcus, what is this? He took her hand, led her to the painting. The night we met, you said maybe destruction could be beautiful. I didn't believe you. But you were right. He turned to her. We're both destroyed, Charlotte. Both broken. But together, we've built something beautiful. Charlotte's vision blurred. Marcus, he knelt. Her heart stopped. I'm not asking you to marry me. Not yet. Not until you're ready. But I'm asking you to stay. To choose this, choose us every day. Because you're the only thing in my life that's ever been real. Charlotte pulled him up, kissed him hard. Yes, God, yes. They held each other, and Charlotte knew she had to tell him. Had to trust him with this final secret. Marcus, I need to tell you something. His expression shifted. What's wrong? I'm pregnant. The words hung in the air like gunshots. Marcus stared at her, his face unreadable. Charlotte's chest tightened, panic rising. Say something. Please. How long have you known? 6 weeks. Since the night I came back, why didn't you tell me? Charlotte's voice broke. Because I was terrified. Because I didn't know if you wanted this. If you wanted to be tied to me in this way, I thought maybe you'd think I trapped you. Marcus was silent for a long moment. Then he laughed. Not cruel. Not angry. Just pure surprised joy? You thought I'd be upset? Aren't you? He cupped her face, his eyes shining. Charlotte, I'm an orphan who built an empire because I had no one to build a family with. You're giving me the one thing I never thought I'd have. A future. A family. You. She sobbed against his chest, relief flooding through her. We're going to be terrible at this, she whispered. Probably, Marcus laughed. But we'll be terrible together. 1 year later, Charlotte stood in the same gallery, holding their daughter Elena, named after Marcus's mother. The gallery was hosting Charlotte's own exhibition now. Photographs she'd taken over the past year. Images of James in his final days, smiling despite everything. Marcus working late, shadows under his eyes. The Golden Gate Bridge at dawn, beauty and destruction. Healing in honesty, Marcus appeared beside her. Presta kissed her a temple. She has your eyes, he murmured. Looking at Elena, and your stubbornness. God help us. Charlotte laughed, then turned serious. Do you ever regret it? Everything we went through. Marcus looked at the abstract painting on the wall, the one that had started everything. Every scar tells a story. Every broken piece made us who we are. So no, I don't regret a single moment, not even the lies. Not even those. Because they led me to the truth. He wrapped his arm around her. That love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing someone, broken pieces and all, and building something new. Charlotte leaned into him, their daughter sleeping between them. Outside, The city glittered. Inside, they'd finally found home. Not in a place. Not in perfection, but in each other. As Charlotte looked at the red painting one last time, she finally understood what the artist had meant. Destruction wasn't the end, it was the beginning. And from their shattered pieces, they'd built something unbreakable. A family. A future. A love that survived the worst and emerged stronger. 3 years after losing Daniel, Charlotte had learned the hardest truth of all. You can't outrun grief. You can't hide from pain. You can only walk through it. And if you're lucky, you find someone willing to walk beside you. Marcus squeezed her hand. Charlotte squeezed back. And in that moment, surrounded by images of their broken, beautiful life, they were complete. The end.